Yo, welcome back to another video. Be sure that you're following me over at my other forms of social media, such as Twitter at Eric D. July. You can also hit me up at my website, which is ericdjuly.com. Also, don't forget, I do a lot of gaming over at Twitch. Same channel name as this, YoungRipper59. Hit me up over there. Now today, we're going to be discussing what possibly will lead into a series of a bunch of different videos. Disney Plus has, of course, been announced, and I'm more intrigued by what Marvel has to offer. I really don't care about anything going on with Star Wars. You can actually see my, launch review, if you want to call it that, and I talk about some of that stuff as far as what intrigues me versus what doesn't. I'm all about the comic book stuff. I'm all about the Marvel stuff. So what this sort of gives us in terms of an opportunity is to go watch some of the shows that I grew up watching, or some of the shows that I don't even know, I didn't even know existed. I don't remember, depending on what age of my life that this took place. Today we're discussing the X-Men animated series that popped off in the 90s. I was a young boy. Like, that was, if it popped off in 92, I was 2 years old, right? And I remember watching it as a really young kid, and then watching it again in the latter half of the 90s. But up until then, I don't really remember catching I only remember catching bits and pieces of what was popping off throughout the years. So as an adult, I hadn't really watched the X-Men animated series really at all. Just again, catching some episodes here and there. Maybe, I'm 29 now, so maybe in my early 20s, I maybe caught an episode on the fly watching, I don't know, something random over somebody's house, or, I don't know. But I don't remember really just paying attention to it like that. And it's always different. And this is what I'm really excited about in watching some of this older material, is that when you analyze something as a kid, as a youngster, versus when you analyze something as an adult, you can get a far different experience. Some for the better, a lot for the worse, that you're like, man, how in the world did we enjoy this? I watched the first episode of X-Men animated series, and there are some takeaways, and I want to discuss and really spend this video, the bulk of this video, talking about what I don't even remember of this entire show. First, let's talk about Morph. If I can be completely honest, I don't even remember him being a part of the X-Men animated series, like, at all. So when he popped up, I knew it was him, or Changeling, or whatever you want to call him. I knew it was him. I'm like, what is he doing here? Did they edit him? I don't remember this. Like, I'm trying to remember as I'm watching this, like, he was a part of this. I don't remember it at all. Like, I'm so far removed from it that I don't, and again, this is episode 1. I'm so far removed from it that I don't even remember him being a thing, like, at all. So that was my first takeaway in, like, terms of what I remember versus what I don't. Next, and I'm going to kind of summarize it, bringing this home, is that little conversation that happened at the beginning with, at the mall or whatever they were at. And we see Gambit talking to some chick, and it was like a very kind of adult-oriented conversation. Where obviously he was trying to get these cards. He was like, I want to buy these cards. And it was like, I like to play solitaire and so forth. And she winks at him. She says something along the lines of, like, is there anything else you want? And she, like, winks at him. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? But you get out of that, you get a lot of, like, old shows like that. And they have those sorts of things in them, especially the ones way back in the gap. You're like, how in the world were kids or watching this, or how were they allowed to watch it? And maybe the people that were making these shows, which I don't know, they were forward thinking, and they're like, okay, this is going to appeal to adults a little bit, and they're going to be able to pick this up as once they get older. Like, even as a child, when you see something like that in terms of that conversation, you're like, whatever. She winked at him. You really can't put that into context, but obviously as an adult you can. Next, in terms of what I don't remember, was how initially they kind of hit the ground running with Wolverine being as rebellious as he was. Look, this is Wolverine. You expect this, you know that this is going to be the case. But going into this first episode, in terms of how he was conversing with, or lack thereof, with the other X-Men, specifically in Cyclops and Gambit, it was like they hated each other, like from the get-go. And I don't remember it being like that early on, as fast as it was, that sort of dynamic sort of, is hitting you in the face immediately. There's this funny scene where he's about to storm off to go find Jubilee, and he says, "Get out of my way, Gumbo," to Gambit. And Gambit, like, as he obviously bumps into him, he turns around, so Wolverine's walking away, and Gambit like looks like he's about to get a card and like throw it at him, like he's about to screw him up. And obviously Cyclops stopped him and said, "No, we don't do that here." But it's crazy. And then you consider some of the other conversations that he was having. Cyclops almost laser beamed him, and basically Wolverine was like, "Try me." So just to see that whole rebellious nature and to see it play out as early as it was, that was really interesting to me. And speaking of Gambit, what I also don't remember, or at least I thought I remembered, was that his accent was, in terms of the voice actor, was a little more Cajun, a little more Southern, if you will. And it wasn't really that at all. He has some sort of accent, but you can't make it out. It doesn't sound as Cajun as I remember it to be, if that makes any sense. I mean, me growing up in the South and having a lot of family out of, Louisiana as well, he doesn't really have that accent, and maybe I can't pick it up like I can, or I remember it being. It's not as thick as what I remember it being, let's say that. So that was one of the takeaways from it. As the more he talked, it was like, is this the same Gambit? Did they switch it on me? But it doesn't really sound like I remember it. And one of the last things that I want to sort of mention, after watching this first episode, it was only 22 minutes or so, I don't remember that outro. It's almost a video game outro that was part of that. I don't know if that was something that was added maybe early on in another, VHS edition or something like that. But I don't remember that certainly at all, that little video game outro and it was perfect because what it did was it introduced you to every single one of the X-Men and what their powers were in terms of Storm, Wolverine, Beast, Jean Grey, Rogue, Cyclops, and everybody, and they're showing them kind of like spinning around, and then there's a little description as far as what they do. I didn't remember that at all. I don't remember that being a thing, but I did think it was a cool addition. Certainly, I can imagine taking a step back and looking at it when I was young, without the ability to really pause it, being able to read that fast. I maybe thought that was cool. Like, okay, this is what this character is about. These are their powers. If I wasn't that knowledgeable on it, but what I do remember vividly, actually, is how well that this series caught just the essence of the X-Men and the essence of their powers. Like, if you read the source material, right, and by then I wasn't really reading comic books at all, but reading it as an adult, and more so reading it and then vaguely remembering what popped off with this animated series, I remember that it respected it, and this is why so many people loved that series, because it respected the source material and it was believable versions of these characters, and it captured the essence of these characters in terms of, and that's what you really get in terms of, I guess, the first episode, is that you see there's bits and times right throughout the first episode, every character showcases their power. Right at the beginning, we saw Storm and Rogue, and then we ended up seeing obviously Wolverine do his thing, Cyclops when the Sentinel blew his head off, and just stuff like that. Beast doing his thing, being extra smart. Like, so just being able to see these characters do the things that they were able to do was what I remember. I at the very least, I remember that much about the show. And as watching it, I'm like seeing this play out in the 22 minutes. It was like sitting back like, dang, man, this is the X-Men. Like, this is the X-Men. You don't really get a feel like, even watching it, had now as an adult been long consumed all the X-Men material. I'm like, dude, this right here is the X-Men, man. I also remember how annoying Jubilee was. I never liked that character. Never liked the character. I actually did a post not too long ago. I was talking about how this character is useless, to get rid of her and so forth. Every time I see her, I get annoyed in the comic book. But yeah, she's still annoying. Storm, of course, that is one of my favorite characters. It's no secret, right? One of my favorite characters ever is Storm. Remember seeing that on screen as a child, and I was like, oh, this is a very, very cool character. She can control the wind, or she can control the weather and so forth. And I just thought that was very, very cool. and remembering her being a beast and seeing her showcase her powers on a couple of different occasions. And the first episode was something that, I mean, really brings us nostalgia, the nostalgia out of you when you watch this. And I just really loved it. I really loved everything about it. And I am going to watch pretty much every episode now that it's available to me with Disney Plus. I'm only paying $12.99 because I'm getting the Hulu version as well as not the Hulu version, but you get Hulu and ESPN Plus if you bundle it with the $12.99 deal. So to be able to catch up on all those old shows, I'm excited. I'm excited to continue to watch this, and I'll keep doing videos on things that I remember, things that I don't remember, and just watching some of these episodes and maybe even doing some compare and contrast to the source material. But that's gonna wrap it up. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/EricDJuly. If you like videos like this, or maybe if you have some shows that are on your radar that are on Disney Plus that you'd like me to dive into and do some videos. Depending on what tier, you do get those requests, so I'll honor that. If you're like, hey, I'm a patron for this month. This is what I would love to see a video about, and I'll take a look at it and do a video based on that show. So be sure to head over to the Patreon, and I plan on, to be fair, doing more videos like that, regardless if you guys request it or not, because I'm just as a fan intrigued by the amounts of different shows that are available, things I don't even remember being a thing. I don't even remember some of these shows even existing. We was going through them in my previous video, and I was like, I don't remember like this version of Spider-Man. I don't remember Spider-Man Unlimited. I don't remember that at all, right? So just to be able to consume it as an adult is going to really determine my appreciation for it, right? Because you can remember one thing as a kid with a lot of these shows, not even just a kid. Like, I'm thinking about the vast amounts of comic books that I consume from ages like 20 to 29, right? And that knowledge base that I gained and understanding and viewing these post having the knowledge base that I have now, it's going to be just a different experience, right? It's going to be a completely different experience. And I'm really excited to get that stuff out to you guys as we dissect these upcoming shows. But that's going to wrap it up, man. Until next time, y'all be easy.